That's more fucking like it. Welcome, friends. Welcome, boon companions. Surf and Turf. A very special episode of Surf and Turf. Perhaps one of the most special episodes of Surf and Turf. Tonight we lay bare things that have been in preparation since the first session. We make dare some reparations that will answer perhaps some of your questions. We quell rumors and kill tumors and destroy one boomer. Welcome, friends, to Surf and Turf. No, this one's I guess this one is not. This one isn't Surf and Turf. This is just and. Welcome to and Vernon. And we wouldn't have Vernon if it weren't for one hep cat that I know. One hoopy frood. One screwy dude. One one Femboy Friday enthusiast. Chrissy the Sissy 69 in the flesh. Hey Chris.
Hello.
I gotta say, it took 0 seconds for me to see that Chrissy the Sissy 69 had followed for me to know that it was you. And then when their first comment in chat was ooh woo, it simply solidified it.
I think it was actually a hello.
sorry. I'm creating revisionist history here tonight. It was hello. Welcome everybody to My Boss is a Vampire, I'm guessing Japanese, probably like either shovelware game or like web comic or webtoon. Did anybody else's mom, anytime something was online in a video format, refer to it as a webisode? That's like a bit of terminology that we don't have a lot these days, but I feel like it's a very mom thing to call like a TV show that you pirated and showed to her, you know? Welcome to the latest webisode of Surf and Turf. Hi, Chris. It's all echoey and weird in here. There's just the two of us this time. I'm afraid, though this is part of the request from Leo with Love, also known as Riley, this will not be the Surf and Turf ASMR special, just because I don't know if I can hold and comport myself that long in a whispery setting. I am Max Measly Meatloaf Max Wilcox, the Bog's leading hedonist, your keeper of mysteries and monsters, and very much alive. Unfortunately, that truth cannot be said for all members on this call. As alluded to before, I'm joined by Chrissy, the Missy Turi, one of the many mysteries and monsters kept by me in my big box. Chrissy, they, them, Vernon, which is the full name I've got written out on your employee paperwork. How's it going, buddy?
Going all right. It's been a while, you know.
2 shots
blasted
of
into
vodka.
oblivion. Whoa!
Oh my god, the actual like alert played this time. Oh my god, that alert never plays. Oh my god, thank you, Leo with Love, for gifting a tier 1 sub to Star Ashley. That's your 4th gift sub, I think, this year. So that's a win. Anyways, you were saying how phenomenal you're feeling today.
Yes. You know, sometimes being blasted into oblivion for a week, and some days I can't keep track of the time.
For a week and counting. Speaking of which, before we get into it, this is a piece of... Oh my god! Too big. Far too big. This is a piece of art made by long-running fan artist of the stream, Chris Mortensen. Oh god, fit to screen, depicting the moment that Vern of his own free will, I might say. This was Chris's. It was Chris's decision to walk in front of the beam, and I don't want to hear any complaining from you. To walk in front of a beam of kind of purest, uncut, unfiltered infinity. And this is an artist depiction of what that might have looked like for a few fractions of a second. Before we digress even further, I want to say already there have been some, but if this is your first episode of Surf and Turf, I don't know what I can't help you, man. There's a great playlist on YouTube that has a lot of really cool context, and if you don't want to watch any of that, we recently did a stream where I updated the player reference document, so that'll give you a pretty decent idea of what has happened so far, with a few key ingredients missed out. Now that all the non-believers have left out, Vernon Roberts is dead. That being said, Vernon Roberts has been dead for his entire life. He was born dead. He sucked and fucked dead. He went on whirlwind, vampiric, evil adventures dead. But sometimes someone gets more dead. Like in the film Re-Dead, it can get to you worse. Now, few people have ever been as dead as Vernon Roberts currently finds himself. In fact, some would say in this iteration of the universe, only one person has ever been that dead before. Now, we still cannot reveal who the worst person of all time is. This is second track Black Parade energy, for real. Yeah, this is I almost call I shouldn't make references to the band that made the Black Parade, because without fail, I always say the wrong one. That one wasn't My Chemical Romance. That one was Fall Out Boy. No.
The Black Parade?
The Black Parade. Who did that one?
It
was My Chemical Romance? God damn it. I always think it's not. Because the only thing I ever associate with My Chemical Romance is the one fucking album cover of Kiss Kiss. You know? Whatever it's called. Then there's the very famous My Chemical Romance album. My sister was... Okay, we'll get right back into it. My sister was a goth, still is a goth by many approximations, was a big Green Day fan. And like Green Day and MCR sometimes run together to me. There's a lot of distinction because I know more stuff about Green Day. I know very few things about MCR. And Fall Out Boy and MCR are on like an axis here on this graph of this V of, I'm going to call it angsty tunes. Would that be fair to say? And right in the middle of this graph, again, that's Green Day, MCR, Fall Out Boy. We got Vernon Roberts. Let me pull up my notes and drop my phone on the floor again. Oh my god.
Vernon Roberts, notorious Green Day fan.
A big Billy Joe Armstrong fan. American Idiot, probably Vernon's favorite track. Oh, the pink text is readable. I don't think we're gonna switch backgrounds today, so I had it on black text, but I don't like the white text, and I think this is like that's almost Measly Meatloaf pink. Here we go. Yada 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 yada. So just gotta scroll through like 40 pages of my notes. Not Surf and Turf Resignation. Vernon Roberts is dead. Dead in a way that only a few people in all of countable and uncountable existence have ever been. And on this earth that we know, only one person before has died this fucking hard. Now, when that person died, they became the devil / hell in a real farce of divine comedy that has led to pretty much every event in trackable human history. Everybody still with me? Vernon, you are not hell, nor are you the devil. A lot of the significance and kind of legal nature of your death was kind of undermined, and the credit for it was taken by one backstabber, also known as the Brine, depending on who you're asking. So, Vernon, you are the merest wisp of thought. You are an amount of atoms that could be pretty reasonably counted on one hand. We're not going to get into how many those is, but you are the barest collection, not even organic or undead organic life anymore. You are just a few tiny, crispy wisps of matter sitting on a rock, kind of basking in the uncountable infinity. And you remain this way for a very long time, Vernon. One would probably assume. Things like scale of physicality, obviously, are beyond you right now. And one has to have anything change around them to have a reasonable tracking of time. And without internal or external organs to view these things changing around you, it remains difficult. I'd like you to roll me an act under pressure, Vernon.
Ooh,
Taken and in your subatomic / technically atomic form, you remain with your regular stats.
Okay, that is a 9 plus 2, an 11.
Over, let's generously call it years, you feel something around you seep into you. You feel yourself outside of yourself, like one of the truest out-of-body experiences that Vernon has maybe ever had. You are privy to your own existence, and it stretches out all around you to countlessly in every direction, dissipating the further away it is from you, from your general sense of thought. You have more of a concrete human understanding, or vampiric understanding, one might say, of the world around you now. Like I said, you are a wisp of you are a twinkle in your father's eye. You are the barest remnants of Vernon Roberts. You are sitting on a rock, which it too itself is sitting on a much larger rocky plateau. This massive, flat, pretty much featureless lump of silty, loose, shifting earth. Beyond this cliff face, you see or sense a body of liquid stretching far, far, far into the uncountable horizon. Its banks sloping up to this cliff face you are now on, reaching out like two grasping, holding arms, again, uncountably to the right and to the left of you. And it's hard to say if this is like a spore situation where you are like looking at a puddle and you are regular, kind of microorganism sized, or if this is an ocean and you would be dwarfed by it anyways. Regardless, it is thrumming with a power that is both familial and slightly alien to you. It feels like your own flesh and blood is out there in that water, and it calls to you, and it is invigorating you ever so slowly. You feel yourself coming into your own, not physically, but kind of, you are your soul now, one might say, Vernon. What are you doing? What is, kind of like, run us through how Vernon is kind of thinking and feeling right now. Because
I'm just straight vibing now.
For real. Just kind of chill out, max, relax, and all cool, lighting some candles, smelling some incense. It's bath time.
Yes, I think in a typical Vernon manner, I will try to sort of consume that which is around me.
I like that.
So try to take up this energy through maybe like some sort of like osmotic.
You feel like almost you feel silly, Vernon, and that you have some beginnings of appendage. Again, like more smoke than flesh, kind of exhuming out from your body and catching little particles of this moisture, which flits through the air. And you begin to gain more concrete awareness of the connection, and there is a cycle all around you, almost a precipitation, and the other one, the rain cycle. You know what I'm talking about. Evaporation. Jesus Christ, thank you. Oh gosh, where are we? The air here is thick. It is cloying and pushes against you at all times. It's rippling fluid, lazily drifts up from this massive expanse of lake in front of you, and tendrils of, you assume they are black. There is no color here, but the considerably darker fluid reaches up from this otherwise thin sheen of clear, sparkling. I keep wanting to call it water, but even you, Vernon, understand that in a place like this, water is very likely something you are not going to find. And you feel a thin tendril of this like black, bracky silt in this water lazily begin like stretching its way up towards you. And this could be a distance of miles from you, but this thin finger probing through the air eventually rests itself atop your physical being, and you are whole again. Once again, not in physical form, but you are whole in mind and in soul and in will. And you believe that if you wanted to, you could move around right now. Would you like me to describe your surroundings a bit more concretely to you?
Yes.
An immense body of thin, clear, silvery fluid stretches out forever. About, again, using approximations here, 4 feet below the surface, it grows inky black and cloudy, with thin blades of this much thicker, darker lower layer drifting up carefully into the thin, much more fluid flowing layer above it. It's, like olive oil and balsamic vinegar. It is unmissable, it would seem. Thin blades of this lower layer drift up carefully into the layer above it from time to time. Between the rippling fluid and the pushing air, an exchange of moisture shifts and drips back and forth constantly. And you see an immense figure is now just barely coming to surface in the water. Eons ahead of you in this space. You see a shimmering, massive, rat-like skull, the tips of its jaws just barely breaching the surface. Long robes cover this school bus-sized spread eagle skeleton, lazily drifting into the thin topmost layer of fluid. This figure, is aware of you. It must be, because you know that it is aware of everything here, and you can feel its passive thoughts slowly collecting themselves into a razor-sharp focus upon you. And it doesn't feel too terribly bad, Vernon. It feels nice, and you feel more welcomed and more at peace and at home than you maybe ever have before. Where do we go here? There is some light here, though you are not limited by it being dark. Reflected occasionally in this water, you see streaks of light, as if multicolored, shimmering birds were floating and flitting right above the surface of the water, only it is just their reflections that you see visible here. And as these flickerings of light reach their way towards the banks of this massive body of water, strange, many long-limbed creatures seem to emerge from almost nowhere and spike their limbs out over the air, and these lights within the water grow dim and fade away. There is a great deal of life here now that you turn yourself into looking at it, and you are amazed that you couldn't see it before. In the distance, away from the water, across this great stretching plateau, you see tree-like, enormous, definitely not plant life, perhaps fungal. There is a weight and a moisture to the air around them. They exude particulate into and out of their bodies, and those same thin strands of black from the brackish layer of fluid and the occasional wisp of silvery clear, those two drift into and out of these large plant-like, forest-like features. From the nearly infinitely far away ceiling above, where, too, there are the approximation of stars. There are distant pinpricks of light, some mighty and fiery and terrible, some cold and distant and blue. Great roots few and far between, lazily stretch down and dip just their very tips into the water below, sucking up more of that brackish, strange darkness from below the water. This large figure is approaching you now, Vernon. Its head, not one bone, but an amalgam of twisted and gnarled teeth and blades, all in shimmering grays and silvers, looks to you, and you see one whole, though empty, eye cavity, and one ripped and torn quarry through the other side of its head, a mark of a single injury sustained during its time on Earth. An enormous clawed hand comes up to this creature's chin, Vernon, and it rests it there thoughtfully, playfully even, and you feel more than you hear all-encompassing voice saying, "Good morning, Vernon. How was your rest? Did you find it diverting?"
It was pleasant.
It is always good. This is going to be a long conversation. There's going to be a lot of pauses in diction. It is pleasant to see that you were not conceptually wholly destroyed by the ill-equipped beam of the cooling depths. I was hoping that we would get to speak again. If it is pleasing to you, I would give you physical form here. Would you wish that?
Yes, I think I would.
Is there anything that you had in mind, or just the classic bipedal, 2 legs, 2 arms, 1 head situation?
Yes, I'm afraid my tastes are a little bland. Yes, just
We must all be pedestrian sometimes. I too chose a similar form when I made my way into your world. And then suddenly the 2 of you are sitting just off the coast of this great lake. Backstabber is standing the same scale as you, feet rested on the lower, thicker layer of this fluid, up to his chest in the upper, thin layer. You find yourself floating a few inches above the water, sat upon the ground. You look whole and fresh again, just as the moment you most recently died. You look down at your hands and realize that you have 3 fingers on one. Your pointer finger of your dominant hand having been sliced off. And Backstabber just kind of nods his head and tapping the side of his own skull. Says, "Some injuries are, well, they last a very, very long time, Vernon." I believe before almost anyone else, I owe you an explanation, I think. Because, if I may, Vernon, of the many, many people that I have met in my long time on this and many other roads, you're one of the few who I think really, did get it. If our roles were reversed, Vernon, and you found yourself where I have found myself, and I was a sharp being found on an unkind world to me, I believe you too would have sought the power I seek, and I too would have, I hate to say, fallen for the scheme you would have woven. You were manipulated, Vernon, and my whole intent in doing this is that I would never find myself in that position ever again. So let us walk for a little bit while I first explain myself and then ask something of you, if you would allow me.
Yes, I think that would be good.
And yeah, you two are walking towards the shore now, and you see more of those kind of nondescript, many splayed-limbed creatures. Very few of them have any sort of physical symmetry to them. Like, they are not, like 3 limbs on one side, 3 limbs on the other, basic body, 1 head situation. They're really trying stuff out with this one. They're going crazy with it. You too see the occasional, much more trackable humanoid figure. Some are... Oh, I've got an actual thing written out for this. Some are substantial and heavy as the air around them, looking softly at you with bright, daring eyes, while some are insubstantial and flitting in and out of the silty, loose earth, never daring touch the water. They appear to be in a similar form that you found yourself in quite recently. As Backstabber moves through this field, any creature gives him a wide berth, save for those nondescript, like razor-sharp figures who will walk up past him like sheep to a herder, and he will pass his hand over them, sometimes even on them, and they will nod and continue on their way. Vernon, I was once, I suppose, simply this place, though it was never quite this concrete. I have, to my knowledge, always been, and I believe that places and things like me have always been, outside of this game that the two depths, as you, I suppose, would likely be familiar with them, have been playing with existence. It is no small secret that this world is not the only world that has ever been or is ever to be. Your associate Kevin could tell you as much as that. He's lived through, I believe, consciously 2 of them now, but unconsciously, as we all have, since the dawn of time. I have existed outside of that system, and I have had lofty goals to achieve outside of that system, I suppose. At second one of this great game of the universe, I came to be, and as always, I knew and retained everything I knew from the last world. And as often before, I set my goals on ascension, on apotheosis for myself. As you can see, you and I have... sorry about that. There was a little flittering ghost that went in front of your eyes. Must be the wind. I crystallized a portion of myself into the humanoid form that you... pseudo-humanoid form that you came to know and love in Cabaret. I made myself fallible. If I was to sustain damage, I would keep it. And it was the only way that I could be untrackable in my efforts and be unnoticeable. If I was a mortal adjacent life form, then the powers that be would pay me no mind, and I could continue on as I wished. And I was also able to bring one of my creations with me. 2. To be more specific. I brought a single piece of this place, of its physicality with me, that I could whittle and wreak my physical tools out of. Out of the top of it, I created the crown, with which I could make someone see and be more like me. And out of its base, of this stalactite, you might call it, this collection of physicality, I made the knife with which someone could cut and forge their own path through the vines that they found in front of themselves. And I was able to bring a crumb of a spore, a single piece of one of my children, I guess. I guess you might call them. And I took it with no question of I wanted to allow it to flourish and prove that my way of doing things could exist outside of their machinations. And that is the being you've come to know as Hyphae. It was... I shepherded it briefly, and I put some thoughts in its head and some goals in its mind, and I removed some possibilities for it not to be able to... It never considered me a power, but it always considered the brine something that it wanted to achieve. It never considered the greater scheme of the game, but it knew that it wanted to beat it. I put my own follies, I suppose, into its ever-expanding, ever-crystallizing mind, and I hoped that it would do great works, and I do think it truly did. And after you, Vernon, I think that is the next person that I need to make my explanations to. For how things transpired, I must admit, I did not see coming. I have always been a creature of happenstance, of coincidence. I exist by accident, and so things too exist by accident around me. But my plans have never gone as far as they did this time, Vernon. I have gone universe after universe. I once more fracturing myself into some new physical form at the very beginning of life, and walking amongst it for the entirety of creation, sometimes until the very last day, without a single scratch upon my body. And yet this time, everything fell into my lap. You found Trent before I found either of you. You were both pushed towards heaven. You were both pushed away from hell. It was everything that I needed it to be. And I must admit that I find myself at a loss for what specifically I need now. My eons long trial and tribulation I find complete, and I know that I am now far more than four-dimensional trackings of time. I am not worried about having failed or failing going forward. It's not something I need to worry about anymore. And I am in the first sliver of my existence as I am now. But I find that I cannot push my will upon the world until I have made right by you, Vernon. I cannot bring you back as you were. That is an impossibility beyond either of us, beyond anything. You are as much a part of the brine as its soul, is now. But I can grant you anything you want, Vernon. And I will give you can have time to think on this, maybe time for me to go get some water. But I am a force to rival heaven and hell now. I can make almost anything happen. Now, of course, it is not that I do not trust you, my friend. Just putting this stipulation off the top of my head, I will not undo the process that caused me to come this way. I will not cede control over this entire place to you. I will not wage war with heaven in a way that would cause me to be snuffed out in a second. I don't expect you to be pulling such chicanery with me, but once again, it is an option that I would consider, so I'm alleviating it. It's just something you don't need to worry about. Just don't worry about using this to get back at me. If you... I mean, do you at least... you get it, right?
Yes. No, there are no hard feelings. I understand it was simply, well...
It was business. I appreciate that, Vernon, because... And again, I don't think that there are many who would have your sense of the scope of this. And paradoxically, I think that there are few who deserve this fate more, not as an aspiration against you, but who else has seen as close to infinity as you, and not lived to tell the tale, but, something in that ballpark. So, what do you want, Vernon? And a moment to think about it is doesn't count as your wish.
Yes.
I
would like to know something.
What would you like to know, Vernon?
I believe it was some time ago. I can't keep track of these things anymore, but I was gifted a snake. How's it doing?
It is very well. Mariana is feeding it as we speak. Is that all you would change about the Earth? The only thing you would change is your lack of knowledge about this snake?
I haven't quite had time to think about.
Oh, I see. I thought that was your wit. I was going to maybe give you it. Oh, of course, makes total sense, my friend. I am going to maybe. I'm going to go see to some things, and give you time to think here on the edge of the lake. Yeah. Good luck to you. I will be right back. The strange denizens of this place will still be able to hear what you say. So, nothing naughty, Vernon.
Yes, of course.
Backstabber stands up from his chair and walks away.
Well, hello, spooky friends of the brine. I hear some strange whispers.
Welcome, everyone. I'm back. How are you doing, Chris? For time to think.
I am
You're ruminating.
ruminating.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
I just want to say, just for a little bit of a, this will be cut out for the YouTube edit. I have always wanted a chance to do this type of wish scene, and it's never been quite right, and it's never been quite worth it. And this is hitting for me. Vernon, I'm gonna say that you go to sit down on the ground to give this some thought, and immediately a very comfortable leather-backed armchair is there, kind of slightly dug into the kind of silty, loose earth beneath you. And you see some of those more physical humanoids gathered quite a ways away down the beach, but with your incredible eyesight, your beautiful, beautiful eyesight, you can tell that they are looking on at you and whispering to themselves, almost in reverence. It's not an expression that you've seen before on maybe a human face, that these beings have plastered over their. Again, they're very close to humans, but there is something definitely a little different about them. They make no effort to get your attention or move closer to you, and yet they are very definitely observing you. You see Backstabber once more wading out into the water, and once again his scale gets a little bit fuzzy, and you see him in the middle of this body of water stand up now till he is just resting on its topmost, thinnest, concentrated layer, and he begins dancing. He is kicking and tapping his feet to and fro like a incredibly accomplished tap dancer, and in the water, with each strike of his feet, ripples of energy radiate out in every direction, and they begin shifting the tides of this water in and out in complex and ever-overlapping patterns. And it is making just the lightest of lovely white noise backdrops for Vernon to have his little think on the beach. Vernon has always wanted power. This much we know about him. He has maybe never had this fresh of an opportunity to reach out and grab it, however. Still thinking?
I think I've decided.
And no sooner has that thought cleared your, I don't know, amygdala. I can't remember which bit of the brain does what. Vampire brains probably work very differently, so it's likely the amygdala that does most of the thinking. You feel a hand on your shoulder. It is cold in a new and indescribable way. Like few things that have ever touched you have been cold before. A cold like many have described it before. So so much so that it feels like almost like warmth upon you. It is almost hot the way this radiates everything but heat. If that makes any sense to you. And Backstabber looks you. You assume kindly. It's hard to tell expression on the skull of a rat. And kind of nods his head deferentially and appears to be awaiting your next word.
Am I allowed to imbue anything on the earth with my presence?
Most definitely. I will say it will be possible for you to go to the earth. It would be a half existence. It would be you would have the all-encompassing feeling, and believe me, I do know this, of once being a redwood and now being a splinter in the foot of a world that does not like you. It is not a enjoyable existence. That much just aside. That is something that you will be able to do regardless of this, and we will discuss more specifics of that perhaps at a later date. What would you wish imbued or imbibed upon the earth?
I would like that snake imbued.
Would you like it made like 50 feet tall, or would you just like it with full of intent? Tell me what you are trying to weave here. It can be as granular or as specific as possible, and I'm not going to pull any genie shit on you, Vernon.
Yes. No, I wish. Does not need to grow to any scale or anything. I just think it could use, as you said, more intent, perhaps.
A push, maybe.
Yes.
This I can do. I must say, Vernon, I was half expecting you to, have all rivers run red with blood, have the Grand Canyon be called the Vern Canyon. It's the restraint I respect. Can I ask why you do not... What are you truly so content with your existence as it is that this is, you think at this moment only of others?
I'm not quite sure. I don't think I've never really wanted. I've wanted power, but I've wanted it so I could hide away.
Well, there is very little chance of anyone finding you here, Vernon.
Yes, I just don't think there's much more I need. I've never wanted my name on anything. I just wanted to be behind the scenes.
And it will be done. And this snake will be more than I think almost any snake has ever been before it. And you see, all of a sudden in front of you, it's Mariana's. I always want to say trench after I say Mariana's. It sucks. You see one of Mariana's werewolves, one of the ones you maybe don't know very well, is packing up a bunch of the stuff in your basement suite. It seems that they've not spent too much time mourning. You have a very good... In the bottom right corner of this mystical vision, you see the time and date, and it is but 3 days after you died. And you see in the corner of your room is your desk, and there's a large glass tank filled with a kind of off-gray, sandy, kind of pseudo beach for this snake. And its head suddenly jolts up, and you get a dramatic crash zoom on the snake's face, and its eyes go from, your regular kind of snake color, maybe like a brownish black with split pupils, and all of a sudden they have a enormous clarity to them. And this snake lifts its head up and very clearly is thinking of what is going on around it. And it all of a sudden has a shimmery, kind of silvery white glow to it. and it burrows its way into its sand underneath it. And you know there is nowhere near enough sand to encompass all this snake. And you see the werewolf look over at the tank, see that the snake is gone, and under his breath he goes, well, I didn't really want to give the snake to Trent, so that's fine. He continues packing up your possessions, and you feel this snake is off into the desert around Cabaret, and you see it very slowly slithering its way through the thin topsoil of sand on one of Cabaret's large dunes, and it is very slowly beginning to carve out some form of marking, some form of effect on this great sandbank beneath it. What its plans are, what its goals are, what Rat Stabber wants of it, you don't really know. But one thing is for sure, this snake is more. And does that please you, Vernon?
Yes.
You cut back out of this vision to Backstabber looking on at you with now maybe more physical features around his face. He realized that it's hard to emote when you're just a skull. It's like, this form is one that I tried out a couple times, though this run, as I've been taking to call it, is the most successful I ever found it. And I think due to that, it is kind of tied to me and this place going forward. But the brine is not conceptually finished, Vernon. Heaven was nothing before it had conscious thought to affect and shape it. Hell was everything, but without human will and intent, it couldn't be willful. I was willful before anything else. I was alive and I wanted and I needed more than I was, but it was never so cut and dry in that, I'm the ocean. I am the symbology of a great cooling abyss pouring itself into a hole in the ground forever. I'm a bubble. I'm a speck outside of this system that has found its way repelling all else from within it. But due to my creation of being repellent, of being outside of this system, it takes only the fiercest and most specific of wills to find themselves here. Those shady forms you see flitting about at the edge of this are consciousnesses that are so very slowly beginning to realize this is where they are and this is what they are. And you were a conscious observer that came into this place. You were, and now always have been, one of the key ingredients here. These shapes, these sharp things that are hunting through the air around you, they were not here before you came back to us and came back. I believe they are as much of you, of this place, as anything else is of me, of here. And I think that you and I can improve upon what we have here. And once again, you two are now suddenly far, far above this. You are nowhere near the supposed and felt ceiling far, far above you, but you look down at this great work beneath you, and it is mainly gray. It is mainly potential. It is purest potential energy, and that is what the brine has always been. It has been a source that could be drawn upon, that no one ever gave thought to how it felt about any of that. It is electricity that didn't like being used to power a turbine. Turbines usually aren't powered by electricity, but the other way around. So we'll ignore that for a second. Now that we've made changes to where you once were, and I must once more express my gratitude, Vernon, that you do. I was worried that you would resent me. I know that you have seen a very specific part of my personality before. It was only my will could be on Earth. I left much of my restraint here in the brine, and I worried that you too would be sheer willful, and you would wish things upon yourself and upon the world that would be, well, I don't really worry about harmful. I would like the world to continue as is, but it's not really any skin off my back if thousands of people die. But your last action alive was something taken from you, and I think that your first action in death being the giving of greater consciousness and will to something that you knew for maybe months does shine. No, less than that, because you got that snake on Christmas. You've known this snake for like a week and a half, man. It's I tip my hat to you, Vernon. And if I was not this place, I think that it would have only have been right if you were. That being said, I've spent so little time worrying about what the brine is and does, and I would take notes. I would take suggestions. I have plans and schemes that will be worked outside of myself, but I think self-care is important. What would you see altered about this place? What would you add? What would you change?
I think it could use some more branding.
Branding. I don't know if I I don't know if I quite followed. Do you want me to have the paper bags also have my logo on them?
Well, something more. Perhaps some icons, some things that can be represented better. Heaven, they have their angels. Hell has demons. What do we have?
The rat men cropped up around me on Earth, but they were never mine to be represented. And I think that it would be damn near appropriative for me to make more of them here, separate of their will. They know what they want, and they know who they work for, and it is not me. It is an idea after me. And you flit down to just above some more of these humanoid figures that you saw earlier, the very substantial ones. These are, I suppose, the closest thing you would have to an angel here. They could be. Oh, sup, Glacier Nestor. We're gonna have a boat sound for a while. You and Backstabber are in a little sail ship, going along the lake. It's only one boat this time, so it shouldn't be too bad. I can bring the alert bar. I can make it less loud. That's fine. You see some of these people on the side of the water. They have eyes too large for their heads and mouths too wide for their heads. Yeah, this is a one-on-one session. We had a PC die, and we are seeing the aftermath of it. Spoilers! Vernon Roberts, local bureaucratic vampire and friend to all, died at the end of last session.
Got blasted with a beam.
He got blasted with a beam of like purest infinity, and now he's in Heaven 3. Hell being Heaven 2. And God 3 is making reparations for causing Vernon to no longer be alive. And you see these figures on the side of the beach, and they are now unable to see you, it would seem. It seems Backstabber has hidden the two of you from sight from these lithe light figures. Their skin ranges from near completely see-through crystalline to the same kind of dusky, strange, grayish, like almost opalescent color of the loamy earth beneath their feet. They mirror the kind of resources that this place is made up of. They are wreaking some magic in the air around them. They are putting out energy, but they don't seem to be too terribly focused on what it does. They're making lights and creation, and they seem to be telling each other stories. You see sharp, biting teeth, and you see flowing bouts of blood, and you see figures being led astray by a pointy-nosed, pointy-tailed figure, often to some of the darker, marshier places in the world. And they seem to be telling some of the exploits of Backstabber throughout his life on the world. And this door appears next to him. It's the door that you and Backstabber in the guise of your father made. It's this sharp, like almost stained glass door that slowly creaks open, and you see a bit of light drift in, and these figures look at it, all surprised and curious, not wanting to get too close to it. These I've never had a name for them. I've not made any. I made a few to live and develop here. I always liked life being in myself, I suppose, while I was separate from it. They are, I think, some of the physical creations of Hyphae would likely be the closest to this life. So I considered calling them Fae, spelt with a PH, of course. I can claim some small credit for a few folktales throughout history, and every time someone noticed me or my works, they were always creatures of mislead, of trickery, not necessarily of evil, but of business. And I think that this too could work for me. So you're saying you want me to have maybe a bit more of a management structure for them.
Yes, I think that should be good.
And you see, from stepping out from one of these massive tree-like shapes, you see another one of these creatures, and this one is bright-eyed. This one is full of intent and will. And you see it stride proudly past the rest of them, and it picks up something from the ground that it is seemingly always known was there, just below the surface of this silty earth. And it takes a brooch of some type, some signification of rank, and it pins it to its own lapel. And in doing so, in its hand, it gains sickly, strange, sharp, almost like brass knuckles of this same kind of almost bone-like earth that knife that you came to both love and then perhaps regret later on, and that crown that tore Timothy away from his family and tore you away from your own will. It sprouts antlers from the corner of its head, strange, sprawling, thinking, growing things, and it sits on a new chair looking out through this door, and the inhabitants of this place, these Fae, Tihi, they look on at it in reverence, and just this being, none of the other of them, just this one, looks up and away now from this door, and sees the two of you looking over it, and you can see that there is a small tear running down its cheek, and it nods its head in respect for you. Well, that's one thing taken care of, but I worry that, I mean, it's all derivative, but I worry that not enough of your flair is on there, Vernon. And I think that everybody else gets their contracts and their paperwork. Everybody else gets their rules of the universe that they have to abide by. And I think it's time that you and I set to seeing that through. I think that before I can alleviate Hyphae's current situation within hell and give it its deserved and long awaited both rest and compensation for its long work at my hand, I think you and I should codify a few things first. And all of a sudden, you are in a comfortable, if dimly lit, study next to Backstabber. You are across from each other at a desk. There is a large stack of papers, as well as 2 comfortable-looking quills, razor sharp, of course,
Home sweet home.
and a large well of black, brackish, silty ink. Backstabber looks at you, nods his head, and the 2 of you begin to get to work. We don't need to go into the specifics of too much of this, but what are some... Whoa. What are some... Can you just hit me with a few rules of engagement that go into place for both the brine in general, but its general in specific, when it comes to interaction with the world around it? What must these creatures do, and what can't they do?
Yes, I think in the moment we are sort of a small organization.
Mm-hmm.
We're a startup.
Of course. But we have deep roots in this community.
Yes, so I think we need to we obviously do at some point need to build up some public recognition, but I think for now we do not want to directly engage with too many things. We want to
Why
sort of
blow our
learn.
wad, if you will?
Yes.
So, a light hand in all things.
Yes. I think like a mold. Once you notice we are there, it
It's
is
far too late.
too late.
See, I knew this would work, Vernon. I knew you would see things as I do. So a steady growth and we will put will before action and planning before will.
Yes.
What all creatures need weakness when... Can I tell you a funny story, Vernon?
Of
It
course.
was not this Earth, nor was it the last one, but it was a few ones ago. And I got very interested in the concept of blood. I knew that it was... I mean, it is... everything needs blood. The ocean is, in and of itself, just a great beating heart pumping out the blood of purest light to the world around it at every foreseeable moment. And hell is stone soaked in it, and that life cut down. And at any stage of things, there is always blood, Vernon. And even this great lake here is, I guess one might call it a spleen. It is a storage of... I think that's what the spleen does. It's been a little while. It is source outside of source. But I cannot claim that I made vampires this time. But the first time, it was me. So I think that... And hell likes to say that they came across it first. But just know that it was me. And I thought that the stake through the heart and the ill will against all that is heaven's work made sense. To have power, you need to be vulnerable in some way. That's why I was fallible. That's why I could take damage when I was on your physical Earth. Currently, as they are right now, my Fae cannot be harmed. But in doing so, I don't think that they can wreak much harm on anything around them. What can hurt them? What can bring them down and bring them back here?
So are they fueled by blood, in a sense?
My blood, but in a sense, yes. They are their lifeblood is my own distillation of will. This thin, and he kind of runs his hand through the kind of syrupy, completely thin substance. That same distillate that I was able to milk from the trees whose very roots you see above you, and that I was able to use to bring you into the form that you now find yourself in. It is that same brew that my children all feed from. But I suppose you could call it blood, yes. If you want to be that guy about it.
I think perhaps much of our strengths seem to be rooted in the organic.
Agreed. I think that our allies and our boons have always been in the life that exists despite of the greater intent of the will of heaven and hell.
Yes, we are the grime on the sidewalk.
The grease on your boot. I don't quite know where you're going with this, but I love it.
Yes, I think our weakness is that which is refined, which is distilled, which is not quite man-made, but synthetic.
Something wrought, something created. The things of silicone and of rubber. I can work with this, yeah, and that gives us both purchase into and woe at the hands of heaven and hell, playing unfortunately further into their needless binary of creation and consumption, but two, empowers us to grow in spite of it, and will perhaps allow us to, may give us purchase for Hyphae to rend itself from hell's depths, drawing from its non-created and amalgamated needs, but burning away and cutting itself off from its synthetic and very humanoid, very iterative parts. This I can work with. And before we get into the real nitty-gritty and end the stream, what beyond my own will, I want my children to have their own goals. They have their own systems, they have their own plans, but what drives them? What fire sparked beneath them makes them move towards a new dawn every next day?
I think they wish to grow.
Now this, I believe I can work with. I don't know if these codifying of laws will, and there's still many subparagraphs and codexes that must be wrought, but
indices.
We gotta dot our I's and cross our T's. I do not know what specific effect this will have on Hyphae, but it will certainly give my children future footholds that they can clamber themselves up with. And I promise you this, Vernon, we shall not see the earth flooded in 30 years or whatever heaven says, because we are just getting started. And I think a victory lap is in order for the iteration of the world where I became a third of it. Once more, I would wish to lay my thanks to you. You will and are always here, but if you ever go elsewhere, know that you will always have my blessing, Vernon, and my truest, utmost respect. Now, I have to ask you, Vernon, did we save anybody from certain death or worse?
No.
That's always the goal. Good night, everybody. Thanks, Chris. This has been And Vernon, a Surf and Turf very special episode. Wow. How do you feel?
Oh, that was very fun.
Yeah, it's
I love doing some world building like that.
yeah, I like there are like I was considering doing like a world building game, but I think that they don't lend themselves to what I wanted out of this one, and you put yourself to it quite soundly. Oh my god! For the first time ever, someone has earned the badge for donating 1K bits. You can now use measly one beware. Gotta be one of my
Congrats.
favorite emotes. Wow. And once again, I just want it to be said that where we are right now in the show, it very easily could not have gone this way if my friend Chris had not opted to drink a potion that a rat gave them a very long time ago. Also, I just want to say that it was very possible that it was going to be Trent in this position that was going to be used for this, but just as a little aside, Surf and Turf is also kind of it's like there's a meta narrative of two people realizing that they are non-binary, and I think that to have the two of us here in the Brine, also known as non-binary heaven, it's just poetry. It rhymes. Oh, Riley's trying to get the rest of my bit badges. I think Measly One Thief Loaf is another one. I can't remember what the bit here is. That I really appreciate all these bits, Riley. As the top donor of this stream, do you have any thoughts, prayers, and feelings about the brine? Excellent. Oh,
Wow.
I've never received a tier 2 sub before. This is cash going my way.
I think Riley is now a patron saint of the brine.
I think, yeah, Riley. Oh, actually, you know what? You see, a few weeks / infinities later, it's hard to tell in the brine sometimes. Vernon, you see some things slowly begin washing up on the shore. The Fae occasionally make their way out into the world and begin bringing some things back with them. Some people, some others. But things occasionally just wash up from the water below. And you see, there is a skeleton. A stripped down of everything that makes one human. Oh my god, you can't give me a tier 2 sub and a tier 3 sub in the same stream. I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm gonna send you money after this because tier 3 subs are just too expensive. But you do now have access to the tier 3 emote, which I think is Measly One Shape. So you are now the only person other than me who could use Measly One Shape. Easily the best Measly Meatloaf emote. Riley, was this also, if I may ask, you also have Measly One Krillian, a very good emote. Riley, was this ASMR enough for you? This figure you see wash up on the shore, you stand over it. You see that all this skeleton has, no clothing, no skin, no nothing. There is a beret perched atop its skeletal head, and it looks up at you. And it says, howdy. And the greater repercussions for that will be felt at another time. But I just want to say that for Riley's self-insert skeleton character to be here, it will pay dividends in the sequel, Gordon. If you are watching this and you don't know what was going on here, this is my YouTube. Every episode of Surf and Turf is up on there now. I would highly recommend watching all of it if you have a job that sorry, Riley, that causes you to have a lot of time to listen to YouTube videos. Let me just hit the exclamation mark plugs. I don't know who these other two fuckers on here. That's Olugs. I don't know who these other two fuckers on this list are. But the top one is the sometimes used art Instagram of friend of the stream and music moderator Chris Toflop, also known as Chrissy the Sissy 69. Longtime supporter, first time caller. God, what else? There will be more Surf and Turf soon. I believe next week, Tuesday the 31st. if all goes to plan, will be the first session of Surf and Turf. Baby, it's mold outside. Chris will be there, and Chris will be playing a new PC, Clint McElroy style. Hey, that's not spamming. Don't apologize for spamming when you're literally giving me money, for one. And also, chat engagement is always a good thing, Riley, especially from my big good friends. Hey, you got emotes at the wall. You, I think, now have access to. You are the only person who has access to all the emotes that I have access to. You can use my secret ones. Oh, that's fine. Hey, but also, who made the images? Most of them, I think, were made by me. One of them was made by Chris, but most people have Measly One Rat Burn. Yeah, I recently bought Resident Evil Village, so there's going to be Big Titty Vampire Goth Mommy stream coming any day now. And then the great deal of that game that does not contain Alcina Dimitrescu will probably also play. I've got a lot of Nintendo DS games slotted in the docket to be played. Very specifically, Ratatouille for the Nintendo DS, Kirby Superstar Ultra for the Nintendo DS, Resident Evil Deadly Silence for the Nintendo DS, Kirby Squeak Squad, Star Wars The Force Unleashed for the Nintendo DS, Avatar The Last Airbender the game for the Nintendo DS, Tony Hawk's Proving Ground for the Nintendo DS, and Full Metal Alchemist Dual Symphony for the Nintendo DS.
Are you just going to become a Nintendo DS streamer now?
From minute one, before I was a streamer, I wanted to play like weird indie games and Nintendo DS games because I wanted to rekindle my love for the system of the Nintendo DS. It is possibly Nintendo's greatest accomplishment as a company, and we're going to see a lot more of that. Chris, do you have anything you want to point people towards? Mouse tumors everywhere.
Mouse tumors everywhere. Kind of gross. Don't recommend looking if you don't enjoy a good mouse tumor. But I've been listening to the podcast Camp Here and There recently on my commute to Hi-Fi every day, and if I would recommend if you like a Welcome to Night Vale style podcasting, then I highly recommend it. Also, like, one of two summer camp based like anthology pseudo horror stories, I think. I can't remember what the other one is called. There's a lot of there's so much good like spooky shit. Also listen to Night Vale. Night Vale's great. Sometimes it takes a while to get into like the plot, which is unfortunately true of like all good podcasts. That's not true. The Adventure Zone's good. Like, I love the Magnus Archives, but my favorite episode of it, and the one that really gets into the lore, is episode 111. So, yeah, you know. Hey, of course, Riley. And that's not the last time this person's gonna come up. Yeah. So, Camp Here and There, Magnus Archives, Old Gods of Appalachia is phenomenal. I tried to support the Magnus Archives Season 2 Kickstarter, but you can't support it anymore, so that's unfortunate. But it's definitely going to happen, so that's fun. And while you're at it, listen to Dungeons and Daddies if you want to hear, like, simply the best, like, Dungeons and Dragons podcast. But also, in this kind of tricksy time where we don't know the future of D&D, with all the shit that Hasbro's trying to pull right now, seriously support small, like, game dev companies. Obviously you could just like pirate the D&D books, and I would highly suggest that you do that because they are too expensive and they're trying to make it like a paid subscription service, but also you can buy them secondhand for way cheaper than from Indigo. Or you can find them in dark corners.
Find them in scary corners of your hallway and they'll just appear. But I would suggest supporting Magpie Games. They made Urban Shadows and are currently working on Urban Shadows 2. And we're probably going to be using Urban Shadows 2 for the show that we do post Surf and Turf, if I can convince my fine young friends to take a night off of their fucking week every week going forward still. If they liked Surf and Turf, that is. All signs point to maybe. They also made the completely phenomenal Avatar The Last Airbender role-playing game, and you also may know them as making Fate one of the most famous non-D&D role-playing game systems. Anything powered by the Apocalypse, I would highly recommend playing Apocalypse World if you want to fuck with post-apocalyptic shit, but also want to deal with an outdated take on... So every Powered by the Apocalypse game, like in their creation like sheet, have like, what do you want your character to look like? And it's like the options are like man,
Yeah.
woman, transgressing, and androgynous, and
Androgynous.
that comes from Apocalypse World. So there's better ones to do. Play fucking Monster of the Week. This game's rad. Go on itch.io. I can't remember what his name is, but there's a guy that makes like all those like one-page RPGs. Almost all of them. Brandon Howitt, I think, is his name. He makes a shit ton of one-page RPGs. Almost all of them are free, but you can support him on Patreon. And they're just like a really great thing to do at like a games night or a party night with some buds. Play MenQuest. You can find the MenQuest core rulebook in my brain. You'll never get. You guys will get that off my cold dead hands. Sorry. And I don't know. Be content with where you are, and wish a snake well today. Thank you, everybody, and good night.
Good luck.